Today we're going to be gluing on a Scotty pad 341 onto my inflatable boat. This is going to be glued on the front, right next to where my motor mount goes on the front of the boat. And what I'm going to use this for is this will be so when I'm trolling with my trolling motor, I can have my fish finder mounted up there. So here's the tools that we're going to use going from left to right, top to bottom. On the left side is going to be a heat gun. What we're going to do is we're going to use that to activate the glue to make it a little bit stickier and set faster. At the top there in the green can is going to be the HH66 adhesive that we're going to use to glue the rubber onto the PVC of the boat. Below that we've got some blue tape that we're going to use for marking purposes, as well as to prevent glue getting onto other surfaces we don't want it to, and protect it while we're sanding. In the middle right there you're going to see my rigid multi-tool, which that's got 80 grit sandpaper. That's going to be used just to scuff up the PVC material on the boat just ever so slightly. I'm thinking on a later video that I'm probably going to do a review on that, because that is an amazing tool. If you think I should do that, please let me know in the comments. If I see a lot of comments, that might be one of the next 2 or 3 videos that I actually do. Next to that we've got a black permanent marker. I'm going to use that to mark where I'm going to put the grommets. Then right up there to the very top of that wooden handle is a little roller, and what we're going to use is that's what we're going to roll out the grommets with, get all the air bubbles out, make sure we get good pressure. And then I've also got a white towel, and what that's going to be used for is that once we get everything sanded, I'm just going to get all the little pieces of fluff and debris smoothed off there. That way I can make sure I get a good seal with the glue. So the first step you're going to want to do is you're going to want to decide where it goes. So what you do is you'll set that up, and then on mine, since this is going on the front for my GPS to mount, is I want to make sure that I've got plenty of room once my motor mount goes there, which I've already checked, and in this area that does give me plenty of room. So I'm going to want it to go right there on the tube like that. The next thing I'm going to want to do, so I'm going to want to go ahead and mark it off with tape. This time, since it's not round, I don't need to draw around it. I'm just going to put the tape right up next to it. My lines are good. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to do the sanding. So for the sanding, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my Rigid Job Max multi-tool. I recommend you do it by hand, just because a little bit of sanding is all you need to do, just enough to take the shine off. With this, it's very easy to over sand to get down into the actual material itself. Because the way this material works is there's a weave and there's PVC on top of it. And then to protect it, they put a very minuscule amount of a clear coat over it. That gives it protection from the sun. What we're wanting to do is we're just wanting to remove that coat because it's very smooth and prevents the glue from properly adhering. So I recommend you do this by hand with 80 grit sandpaper. You'll notice there's little bumps on your material. You don't want to sand those down. You're only wanting to sand off that finishing coat. So you just want to get rid of make it kind of a matte finish. It's amazing. Comes in very handy. So I've got that sanded. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to take my rag. I've got my clean white rag here, and I'm just going to use that to get rid of any of the debris. You can see the matte finish on there. I'm going to get the debris off there. Now I've got that matte finish on. So the next thing we're ready to do is ready to put our first layer of glue. We're going to do 2 coats. I'm going to let each one dry 3 to 5 minutes afterwards. So the thing I like to coat first, and get my rag over here just in case I drip on there, I can clean it up real quick with the rag before it dries. So I like to do this first, so that way if I have any on here, I can just wipe that right off onto the area I'm going to glue on the boat. Because when I put too much on the boat, I'm just going to smooth that right over onto the tape. So you can see I'm just kind of getting every square inch of this. You can see it goes on. One of the things you're trying to do is you want a thin layer. You don't want any clumps, you want it on evenly. And that's why we're going to do 2 layers, is because we're going to do 2 thin layers. And we don't have to worry about missing any areas. So if we happen to miss a little area, the second coat is almost sure to get it. So now this is a bigger area, so you've noticed I've had to dip my brush in quite a few times. So we're getting that nice and evenly coated. Alright, so now we got that. Now we're going to do this whole entire area on here. So we're going to put that on. Notice there's a lot on there. That's fine, because we're going to take it and we're going to spread it all over. Because, like I said, you want to make sure you're not doing too much. So anything extra, notice I'm just taking that right off the side of the tape. Just taking that right off like that. We want to make sure we cover the entire area with a single layer. Nice and even. Alright. So in this heat, it's probably about 89 degrees out right now. I am doing this in July. I'm doing the heat in the hottest part of the summer. So the flip side is even though I'm sweating quite a bit, this glue will dry really fast. One of the things about this glue is when it dries, is it's not very tacky to the touch. Like you're going to feel it and you're going to think, I don't have any glue in there, that's not going to stick. But you'll notice when you put those on there that it actually sticks really well and bonds super fast. So we've got our first layer done. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to let those set for 3 minutes. And the reason is it's hot out. And you saw how long it took me to do that. It's actually starting to get a little dark out, so I had to add some light. Now you're kind of seeing a little bit of a different sheen to it. And part of that is while I try to get it even, it's not 100% even. So now we're going to do our second coat. And once again, we're going to start out on the top. And that's because if we put too much on here, we can just wipe it off onto the bottom section. So I get my glue started and just getting that on there really liberal. One thing is with this glue is that when you add new glue over the top of the old glue, it actually starts to reactivate that old glue on the bottom. So that's also one of the big advantages of doing 2 layers. Because you notice on the second layer, it doesn't take near as much to do. And I go over each area in both directions. So that sun is finally starting to set on that July evening and temperature's starting to drop. It's actually starting to feel pretty good. You're also hearing all those bugs in the background. Those are our cicadas that we have around here. They are really interesting bugs. They live as grubs underneath the ground for 17 years and then come out for just a few months to reproduce. And they make that sound. Growing up as a kid, in Kansas, we did not have air conditioning. And so in the evening when it cooled down, those bugs start to come out is when the temperature would start to drop. So we'd go down from that high 100 degrees in the daytime down to a cool 70 to 60 in the evening. So whenever I hear the sound of those bugs, it makes me feel great because all those memories of playing outside on those cool evenings. So now I got the top part done. Now I'm going to do that bottom part. And you can see it does not take near as much glue once I've got that first layer done. So we're just getting that second layer. Notice I'm wiping all the excess right off onto the tape. And that's because when I'm done, I'm just going to pull that tape off, and so any excess is going to come right off and be thrown into the trash. So, we got that second layer going on right now. Alright, ooh, that's a little thick right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to smooth that right off. Move it this way as well. Alright. So now we got that on at a very thin layer, all smoothed out. We're going to let that set for another 3 minutes. Alright, so it won't feel very tacky to the touch, but I mean, it's real easy for this to stick to that once we got both sides dry. So we're very carefully lining them up here. Making sure that when we smooth it down, it doesn't go over the tape. The other thing we're going to do, we're going to use our little wheel, make sure we get all the air pockets out. So, got those air pockets out. I'm just going to smooth this all out here, like so. The other thing you'll notice is I am doing this while the boat is fully inflated. And so the reason is that we're not making this airtight, but we want this to secure totally to it. So we're able to actually get a little bit on there when we have it fully inflated. If you're doing a patch, you would not want it fully inflated because you need to get a lot more elbow grease onto that patch to ensure that you got all of the air bubbles out. But one of the things about this is that with this section here, it's not actually making contact with the boat, so it's not even possible to get all the air bubbles out. But what we want to do is ensure that on these flat sections, we are making contact with every single part of it. So we're just getting that all rubbed out. We've got that all rubbed out on there nice and good, making sure that every part of it's glued, which we did because you saw how liberally we put that glue on there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just take this all off. on this last piece of tape right here. You have that off, and I've got a little bit of glue that sticks out, but it's not too bad. I'm a pragmatist, not a perfectionist. I want to make sure it's on there good and tight. I'd rather have that little bit of glue sticking out if it's on there properly than to have it look perfectly but not glued down all the way. Because when I'm out there on the water, I do not want that fish finder coming off. So we've let it dry overnight, and I've gone ahead and I've attached the Scotty mount adapter that I want to it. And so one of the things you want to do when you put it on is go ahead and give it some really good tugs. Make sure it's on there nice and sturdy, because if it's not, you want it to rip off now, as opposed to when you get your expensive fishing rod or your fish mount on there and get it out to the lake. And so I hope you found this tutorial nice and helpful. Remember, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down at the bottom. I try to respond to those, and